Jaroslav, you've been involved in, as Toby says, I mean, cities are complex places. There, anybody who thinks they can solve a city obviously clearly has no understanding of what that means. Yet it is a challenge that we're all facing. We have to engage with the challenges that the cities of 2024 to 2030, let's say, are going to be bringing us. And they are challenges which are, it's exponential. It's exponential to the power of exponential. You know, they're beginning to, the fears they're bringing to fail down. Please, we look forward to hearing your thoughts. Feel free to introduce yourselves and to share some of your thoughts on that.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you. And thank you, David, for inviting me to this distinguished conference and the panel. I am an economist and deal with the issues of transition. And from what Lord Toby Harris said, it's one thing when you live in the democracy, you enjoy all the virtues of freedom and human rights. The different thing is when you are in the state of war. You are being attacked by the Nazi Russia, or you live in a totalitarian country where there is very little understanding of what real freedom, human rights, and self-governance is. So you come from the point when cities were the centers of policymaking, of urban development, of human life, everything. Here in Ukraine right now, it's a different challenge. Now we just wonder how to ensure anti-missile defense system for each major city and region. And it's not just about Kyiv, but it's a different story about Kharkiv, which is very close to the front line, or Zaporizhzhia, or Dnipro, or Mykolaiv. So these are the cities that are really very close to the war zone. And as the country, we are now in this situation where we have about 10 million migrants, both external and internal, and that poses a lot of challenges for cities that are further from the front line, how to deal with basic dwelling problems, how to ensure transportation, social security, medical care, education. Just imagine after 2 COVID years, now we are in the situation when schools cannot operate normally because every 3-4 hours, children must go to shelters because there was air raid alarms. So that poses a lot of tension on the educational process as well. So it's the reality of the country, the state of war and urban development, whatever it is different from the perspectives of London or Berlin or any other major city in the peaceful time development. And of course, one of the major issues that we're facing is how to teach local communities self-governance, because as you know, in the totalitarian state, it's super centralization. Decision making is very much concentrated, and the relations between cities and regions on the one hand and the center are absolutely different. So what we would appreciate from you guys is how to move to ensure this transition from super extra centralization of political, economic, power making or decision making to local governance. Some decisions in Ukraine were made on budget redistribution, and then it created another topical issue in the country, because on the one hand we have the situation of some local budgets, city budgets that had more resources during the time of war because of the wage concentration of the military in that regions, and so people who believe that there must be more concentration of resources in the center because we need more money for the defense and our army. So on the one hand, we stand up for decentralization. On the other hand, this decentralization leads to the situation of local bodies, local power structures, prioritize military goals, and it also creates some anxiety and concerns among different parts of the society. So when we talk about urban development, it's also not about like local issues like water supply, of course, energy supply, which is another big issue because in the post-Soviet heritage was super centralization of energy supply. And again, how to arrange this transition from super concentration to rather creating vibrant energy market in the country with the help of new technology, including, of course, green technology and the generations that is not based on air pollutants. That's a big, big challenge. Another thing is how to rearrange fiscal policy in general. For you, you've been living with stable fiscal tax policies for decades. Right now, we see, and this is also very important, the issue of the capacity. When our Western partners, including IMF, World Bank, OECD, recommend some solutions for fiscal policy, for monetary policy, they presume that some institutions are in place. But in fact, the quality of institutions and quality of governance in Ukraine, in very many post-Soviet or transitional countries, is very weak, is very fragile. And good intentions, in very many cases, lead not to sustainability, to resilience, but rather to creating oligarchs, to creating schemes, to irresponsible behavior of those who abuse public funds. And so just mere giving resources in the hands of local authorities does not necessarily mean vibrant development of local communities, as we see in the first 2 years of war. So the agenda of local and urban development right now in Ukraine is dramatically different from Europe, from America, from Canada, from developed countries. And so it's the combination of security issues. And of course, like, we have eastern part of Ukraine where Kharkiv was, and Kharkiv city and its residents considered themselves to be the second capital of Ukraine, as it was vibrant. It was located in a very good geographical position. But right now, no matter when we win the war, what will be in across that part of the border? Is it build a deadlock? That's the importance of a radically different approach to urban development of that region, or something else. Likewise, the cities that could benefit from internal migration. The infrastructure was not ready for the inflow of hundreds of thousands of people. And again, that creates different stumbling blocks in the development. So I think that that would be very important to concentrate efforts on narrow definition of urban development. But on the other hand, we should definitely take into account a broader picture where security concerns, fiscal and monetary policy concerns are also taken into account, because just again, let me remind you that we still are a very centralized country with a lot of concentration of power and resources in the center. And in very many cases, it's the formal structures are not the ones that take major decisions. So it's a very good case for scholars who deal with urban development, and the other hand with those who deal with development in general. We have to overhaul, in very many respects, development economics and development theory, because it's not enough to just concentrate efforts on international aid programs, international development programs. we should be more prepared to deal with this kind of, practical, intellectual challenges that we're facing. And unfortunately, we have many dictatorships, we have axis of evil. And again, this is security concern, should also be part of the broader picture. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaroslav. I mean, I know Ukraine well. As you know, we met there last week. And there's no question about it. Ukraine has had to really readjust to a shock, hasn't it? I mean, it was to a certain extent foreseen, but the reality was not foreseen. The need to move massive amounts of people from the east towards the west, under wartime conditions. Roads were being bombed, facilities were being bombed, infrastructure was being bombed. There was a curfew, rockets were coming in, etc., etc. Then you come to the border with Poland, and then you sort of have to have a mass transit of people across there. You have internal settlement, external settlement, you have disruption to government and to governance. And as I think you said, sort of Ukraine has demonstrated what a country in shock looks like when it tries to react. And the truth of the matter is, in my opinion, Ukraine has done that incredibly well, I think much better than, for example, we might have done in the UK. But the truth of the matter is Ukraine is used to crisis, I think it was Ronald Reagan who famously said that the most dangerous words in politics are, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you.
Absolutely.
But the idea in Ukraine that if you have a problem, if there's a snowstorm or if your electricity goes out, that you wait for the government to help you, that doesn't exist. You are self-reliant. The communities are there. You have your group of people around you. You look after each other.
That's right. It's
please.
Yeah. Something that really is a very important feature of Ukrainians. As you remember, this meme, 3 days and Kiev will fall, that was supported not just by Russian aggressors, but many people in the West. But the major factor that made Ukraine not just survive, but kick asses of the Russian aggressor in the first part of the war was this people's unity. Communities that got together, volunteered to defend the country. So that's what's absolutely unparalleled in anything I saw in my life. So people realized that it's not because the government wanted them to, but that was the self-organization. And in this situation, as again, when people were not ordered to defend their country, people did not shoot each other because they had guns or Molotov cocktails. They directed all their rage to the aggressor. Likewise, when we talk about urban development, if people are let free to create their own communities, in the way they want, that would really kind of free the potential of the Ukrainian people. So, and in this situation, the international cooperation between Ukraine and the rest of the world would be rather not based on the centralized decision-making of the Ukrainian government and governments or international organizations, as some people design the approach to restructuring, post-war restructuring, but rather concentrate efforts on like 25 major cities or 45 cities in Ukraine with a population over 100,000. And in my understanding, this decentralized approach, when you have connections between different communities, urban development projects, city to city, like twin cities, brother cities, would definitely have a bigger and better effect than if you concentrate efforts in the hands of the government or office of the president. So again, and that's what we expect from you, from our friends in the West, to urge Ukrainian governments and to put it from the theoretical level, why restructuring in the decentralized manner would definitely be much better than centralized redistribution of resources.
Thank you, Jaroslav. I mean, as you know, I've been working with the National Security and Defense Council very closely, and with Alexei Danilov. I've got to say, I am delighted and honored. I have been officially put on the Strategic Policy Council of the NSDC, so I have a voice. I'm at the moment preparing a paper around both post-conflict recovery and reconstruction and national transformation. So I'm very honored to be very deeply part of that conversation about how Ukraine restructured